because the subconscious is amenable to suggestion.
Right.
So especially like if somebody's not being vigilant in their own thoughts, you're like, we're receiving, all of these suggestions from the news, from the world, from all of these things, and they're giving us suggestions, embedded commands. There's presuppositions.
Right.
There's embedded assumptions in those conversations that unless you're vigilant and you go, not true, that's false.
Right.
Falsehood. I declare falsehood.
Right.
Then you can become susceptible to those.
Yeah. I often will use the word suggestion and temptation as the same thing. We're being tempted by a suggestion that the world is giving us about our worth, about
that's a big one,
about opportunities, about possibilities. There's a suggestion that there's a lack and scarcity and not enoughness. That's a temptation that people fall into, and then they use the language to reaffirm that and to reaffirm their experience of that reality, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy based on the original temptation.
Totally.
Yeah. Peace and riches blessings. I am Michael B. Beckwith, the host of Take Back Your Mind. Peace and blessings, everyone, and welcome back to Take Back Your Mind. I'm your host, Michael B. Beckwith, the founder of the Agape International Spiritual Center. And every week, I get to sit with people that I love, people that bring a great degree of inspiration, upliftment, healing, transformational energies into the world, people that have opened up their heart, taken back their own mind from the confusion of the masses, and become epicenters of love and inspiration. I have Niurka with me right now. She's with me in person. It's always beautiful when a guest comes in. It's magnificent.
So much joy to be here.
Absolutely.
Right now.
All these years.
Yes.
It's been a minute. Listen, let me tell you who she is in case you don't know, okay? Now, you know the world we're living in right now, or what it appears to be. Uncertainty appears to be the new normal for many people. Niurka equips leaders and inspiring individuals to rise with clarity, purpose, prosperity, and power. She's a world-renowned transformational leader, master of NLP, creator of supreme influence. I like that book, too. We used it for a book of the month here at Agape. An evolutionary mission and method that empowers people to break through fear, self-doubt, and limiting patterns to unlock their true purpose and live with deep fulfillment and measurable results. With over 2 decades of global impact, Niurka has guided hundreds of thousands to rewire their mindset, elevate their communication, and create real lasting breakthroughs in how they lead, which is important, how they love, and how they live. Welcome. Take Back Your Mind.
Thank you.
Listen.
Inspired to be here with you.
I know you. I know a lot about your backstory.
Yep.
But I want you to tell them your backstory. How did you get to be you? What happened in your life?
Well, there's been defining moments, one of them specifically, which I wrote about in the book that you wrote the forward for, so thank you for that. And I started the story that at 15 years old, I embarked on a quest for freedom, for truth, and for enlightenment. But it was, back then I was running away from home.
Okay, that's what it looked like.
That's what it was. And there was deep pain, pain and suffering.
Right.
And the thing about pain is a lot of times when people feel pain, they're trying to hide it or not, numb it or eliminate it. But there's a portal in pain to possibility. There's a gift that is buried within the pain. And I remember, there were times where I was thinking about a story of the early years where I had a red Honda Prelude with a broken radiator. I used to drive it to the gas station to fill it with water just to get to the next gas station. And I would drive to the airport and I would park there and I would look at the planes and I would feel like tears rolling down my face and just a yearning in my heart and looking at those planes, visioning and imagining what my life could be like imagining living a meaningful life and making an impact and having success and just this triumphant life. But that wasn't my reality. The reality was like the dark night of the soul.
Right.
Despair.
When you were driving this old car, was this a part of the running away experience?
This was like a year after. It's like a year after. Yeah, because I ran away at 15. Like by 16, I got this car, and then I was like, but I felt like I was stuck in this loop.
Mm-hmm.
But I had this sense inside that I was destined for more than what was showing up. And that's the key with all of us. It's like that pain becomes a way to alchemize our own experience.
Right.
And I didn't have any mentors at the time. I was in this place of darkness. And I remember I used to hang out at the bookstore. I used to go to Barnes and Nobles and start looking at all these books. And that actually became my first mentor.
The books
became my first mentor, and this yearning and this sense that I could have a breakthrough. So this sense of possibility, even though I couldn't see it at the time, I was in the unknown.
Mm-hmm. But you were feeding yourself.
I started feeding myself. I remember the first book I read. It was a Celestine Prophecy.
Yeah.
And I read it cover to cover. And then I was like, it gave me hope of recognizing that synchronicities were possible, meaningful coincidences. And then from there, I ended up reading another book that totally changed my life. And I read it like my life depended on it. But that was my first mentors. I remember I used to rollerblade down Miami Beach with a backpack full of books and highlighters and pens. And this was a place of reflection for me to really look at what was I missing? What was it that was not in alignment within myself that was causing these experiences to happen.
Okay, so you're feeding yourself. You're having insights.
I'm having insights, and then
your relation. Then what happened for you to go to the next level? Obviously, it's a mindset.
Totally. The first part was I realized something I read where I realized I did not have clarity of purpose.
Okay.
And I was more focused on avoiding all the things that I didn't want than consciously creating, envisioning, and putting energy towards what I did want.
Right.
So recognizing that I didn't have this purpose was like this huge breakthrough. And from there I go, okay, it's important for me to get clear.
Right.
So you talk about this, right? In the visioning, it's important for us to be clear on the purpose, clear on what is it that we intend to create? What is my ultimate outcome? What is my vision? Why am I here? So I started asking these questions. So we talk a lot about the power of questions, right?
Absolutely.
So I started asking better questions, where in the past I was asking questions like, why is this happening to me? Why
What's
is
wrong?
this so hard?
Who's to blame?
Yeah. And then I started asking, what can I learn from this?
Right.
What's the wisest or thing for me to focus on right now?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I? Why am I here? So these deep questions. And that opened a portal. So I started getting very, very clear. Mm-hmm. And from that, at first I figured the two most important definite chief aims, I was 19 years old by this time. So fast forward from 15 to 19, I was like, I've got to make money because
we got to eat.
Yeah. And then the second thing was I was deeply inspired to know truth, to understand the ultimate reality, to understand the nature of existence.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, so I got to figure out how to hack this money conversation so I can do what is my soul's deeper calling.
Right. So what happened? How did you start making money?
Well, this is interesting. Well, there's a few, there's a lot of stories in between where I made some and didn't. But by the time I was 19 years old, I had an opportunity to go work with a man that some of you may know over there. His name is Tony Robbins.
Right.
And I went to work with him at 19. And I traveled, lived in 16 different cities over a 5-year period, and focused on sales because I was like, okay, I researched it. I'm like, how are you going to make money? And I'm like, okay, you got to be an athlete, entertainer, doctor, lawyer. I'm like, okay, I'm not really qualified for these. What am I going to do at 19, right? I put in work ethic, time, energy, and decided to go into sales. And I was so devoted to figure out how to make this work. It was like, for me, it was like life or death at the time. I was like,
obviously,
I needed to figure it out. And all this work worked. So shifting my mindset, focusing on where I wanted to go instead of where I didn't want to go, putting in the consistent, focused, purposeful action in that direction, and my life started changing. I became the top corporate trainer with Tony Robbins at 19. First, I remember I wrote down from this book, Definite Chief Aim, I was like, I will make $100,000 or more in 12 months or less at 19, and that seemed like such a huge, because I didn't have anybody in my family
Right.
who had done that. I didn't know anyone who had done that. That
Right.
was, and the very first year I was there, I did over that. I exceeded that
But
expectation.
how did you get
at
from where you
19.
were to Tony? I mean,
Okay.
How did
That's okay. So this is
you
a great.
call him up?
No,
Did you walk into the?
No, actually, I had another quantum leap before. That was a major quantum leap. I actually dropped out of high school, and I felt like such a loser dropping out of high school that I went back and got my GED before my class had even graduated college. So I was in college before while they were still in high school.
Oh, okay.
And then I decided, okay, I got to figure out how to make money. So I like research and I go, oh, Wharton Business School. I'm going to go to Wharton Business School. That's what I'm going to do. So I literally walk into the counselor's office and I'm sitting down with him and I say, I need to know how to get to Wharton Business School. And he's looking under his glasses, opening my file. And he looks at me, he goes, that's impossible. And he goes,
You didn't graduate from high school.
And that's what he said. He said, listen, you're a high school dropout. You had a 1.6 grade point average in high school. Like, this is impossible. And I go, there's got to be a way. And he looked at me and he said, it's like less than a 1 in a million. I go, perfect. I want to know that 1 in a million.
I'm that one.
And yeah, and you are the one. That's actually what I wrote in my book. I said, one person's awakening elevates the consciousness of the planet, and you are the one.
Right.
So, talk about synchronicities. Earlier, I mentioned that I had been hanging out in Barnes & Noble, read the Celestine Prophecy. So the counselor said to me, listen, it's never going to happen. You'd have to do something so outrageous. You'd have to have like a 4.0 straight for like the next 2 years. You'd have to be like student body president or something. You'd have to go and, start all these.
You set the bar really high.
Yeah. And then he says, and you'd have to go make some connections. Like you'd have to go meet the president of Wharton or something. They have to take a liking to you because this is impossible. And I literally walked out of there with some hope. Like, okay, so I can
All you
figure
needed was a little bit of
just a
grain of
tiny-
faith.
And I talk about that a lot. Faith the size of a mustard seed.
Right,
We
right,
can move mountains, you know.
Right.
So what ended up happening was as I walked out the door, I saw a sign that said, elections for student body president. And I go, that's a sign.
That was a sign.
It was totally a sign on so many levels.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm going to run for student body president. And they were looking at me going, that's crazy. You can't do that. You're a high school dropout. The people that are running have been in student government for all this time. And I was like, not only am I going to run, I'm going to win. And I just set my mind. And this was something that I was learning, the power of our mind, the power when we are sincere in our heart, aligning our mind and our heart with a clear vision and being just like so focused on that while still being aware of infinite possibilities. And I took action and I did a lot of things, that were in alignment. And a lot of it was connections, just going and connecting with people.
Right.
And connecting with the leaders of the other groups and the other communities. And then on election day, all these leaders brought all their people. And sure enough,
this was in college?
Won. No, I became student body president of the largest community college in the United States.
What was the name of the school?
Miami-Dade Community College.
You became the student body president.
Yeah, I became the student body president. So they have over 100,000 students at the time.
Was everybody shocked? Wait a minute, was the counselor shocked?
Everybody was like, whoa.
What about the other student body people that were in government for all these years?
They were in government for all these years,
and
including
here you
one
come,
guy.
whoop.
Like, I was unexpected. I was like the total underdog. They're like, there's no way she's going to win. I think they didn't take me seriously.
Right.
And the way that I won was I went and I connected with the leaders of groups.
Right.
And I found out, I listened to them.
Right.
I found out what was most important to them, what wasn't happening. If they could vision like the most magnificent next level of this school and this student body and this experience, what would that be? What would that look like? What would that sound like? What would that feel like? So I had these connections. And then on election day, it was like they all showed up with all their people. They were saying, you got to go vote for Niurka. Actually, I didn't even use the name Niurka back then. Now I used my middle name because my middle name was Teresa.
Okay.
And this, I don't think I've ever talked about this.
Niurka
Teresa. But I used the name Terry. And my slogan was, through Terry's voice, you will be heard. Isn't that crazy? And this was plastered all over the school. And then sure enough, I won. And I even got a chance to go meet with the president of Wharton. Turns out that one of the professors there was a graduate of Wharton. When I told him my vision, he's like, oh, we're having an alumni meeting. You got to come. The president's coming. And I ended up meeting with her. So I had paved my way towards that vision. And then I realized it really wasn't about academia. It wasn't about that. It was about this other ultimate outcome.
Right.
And then from there is when I ended up going on the road. And
With Tony.
Actually, before Tony, I started putting on events, which I'm actually
Your own events.
No, I was putting on events for. Have you heard of a guy named Brian Tracy?
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to go see Brian on Saturday. I'm going to his home.
He referred me to. He couldn't speak somewhere, and he gave them my name.
Oh, really?
On Florida or somewhere, and I went out and spoke, and it was great.
So I started promoting Brian, and I started promoting a number of other speakers for a company. I still remember the name. It was called Success Club International.
Right.
And I worked with them, and the guy went bankrupt. And didn't
Success.
Success Club International went bankrupt. This is back in like oh my goodness.
It happens.
Anyhow, but what it did was by that point, I had realized that I had the power to consciously create my life.
Right.
And
Your own experience of reality.
We all have this power to consciously create our lives, where that was so different than the early years, where I felt like a victim of circumstance. Like, why is this happening to me? Why is this so hard? And living inside that loop. And then all of a sudden I go, wait a minute. What I focus on matters. What I say to myself matters.
Right.
You know, my intention matters. And then, of course, my actions, you know.
Have to be in alignment with
to
that.
be in alignment, yeah. So it's like, you're not going to just be in the vibration of the thought. It's like, okay, what is the most essential next step that's going to move me towards this ultimate outcome, this ultimate vision? And why is that important?
Right.
Like that sense of like deep burning desire, not a desire, you know, from this like ego place. It's more from this soul. This soul knowing that I'm destined to do something that is meaningful. And you all are, because everybody has a gift. You've got a gift that nobody on earth has. Seriously. It's and tapping into that. So it was a journey of discovery. It was a journey of awakening. It was a journey of discovery. It was a journey of alchemy, of transmutation, a journey of personal transformation. And then, you know, one of the things I say is from pain to possibility to purpose to power.
Right. So let's continue with this. I want the 4 Ps, but I want this. Okay. So you're doing Brian Tracy.
I'm doing Brian Tracy.
And then,
well, this is a great. You're reminding me of things I haven't thought about in a long time.
I want them to know you, you know, because your story. I mean, I know you're a part of your story.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for people to know that, you know, you weren't just gifted with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Not at all. It was a lot of struggle.
You ran
trauma.
Ran away from home. There was a lot of pain, and your total heart set and mindset propelled you into meeting the right people. It wasn't like you met the right people. It was like something within you made you meet the right people.
Yes.
And all of that. So now you're selling this stuff here. You know, you're not selling it, but you're actually promoting somebody that's really great.
I'm promoting somebody. Yeah, I was promoting Brian Tracy, and I was promoting a few other speakers, but he was the primary one before Tony.
Right. And so then that led you to Tony?
Yeah, so I remember that company ended up going bankrupt, and they didn't pay anybody for the last 2 months. I don't think even they paid Brian. Nobody got paid of them. And I found myself this is actually interesting. I found myself in Connecticut. And at that point, I had bought this little car. It was
this is the car you were talking about?
No, this is a totally different car. By this time, it was a brand new Eclipse. I forget what the type of car, Eclipse convertible, and I had a little rhinoceros that I glued on the dashboard because I was sensitive.
Right.
And like when I would get rejected, it would like hurt me. So I put this rhinoceros to remind me to have thick skin and don't allow it to hurt you so much.
Right.
And then
that's like a visual metaphor.
Yeah, I was right on my dashboard.
Bam. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, found myself in this hotel room in a total unknown. Like, I don't have a job. I don't know where to go. What do I do? And in that moment, I called a friend and I go, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. I don't, you know, and I explained to him and he said to me, well, if you could do anything you wanted to do, what would you do? And I was like, anything? And I was kind of jaded at that point. And I said, if I could do anything, I'd be hiking naked in the desert by myself. And he goes, if that's what you wanted to do, then that's what you would do. And he hung up. He just hung up. And I was like, my one friend just hung up on me. And the next day, I packed all my bags. The company went bankrupt and they left me with a trunk, a big, you know, those big old trunks that have the gold on, these, like a Walmart trunk filled with cassette tapes, audio cassette tapes. And the guy said to me, hey kid, you could keep the cassette tapes.
Because we're not giving you no money.
Because we're not giving you any money. So I drove from Connecticut to the Grand Canyon. And I listened to all of these cassette tapes, and it was Wayne Dyer, and it was Jim Rohn, and it was Deepak Chopra, and it was, you know, Louise Hay. And I'm like driving in my little convertible
I want people to catch this. I want people to catch this. First, the library was your friend. I mean,
First,
the bookstore.
the library.
The bookstore.
Barnes and Noble.
You read all these books.
I used to hang out there.
And then you went to these cassette tapes of all these inspirational speakers.
They changed my life.
Just flooding your awareness.
Like nonstop.
Truth principles. Yeah. Were you at the Grand Canyon listening to these tapes? Or?
I was driving from Connecticut, which is where this whole company kind of went under.
Yeah.
And then I was driving from Connecticut to the Grand Canyon with this vision that I was just going to go hiking and figure something out. I'd never seen the Grand Canyon. I figured that was a good place to go. So I listened to all these tapes, and it was literally nonstop over and over and over again. And I was retraining. I didn't realize it at the time how powerful this was. I was retraining my mind, my belief system, even my own identity of what was possible. That was all in a state of alchemy. In that moment.
Wow.
So so then I drove there, and I was like, okay, so I got to the place I got to Flagstaff first, which is outside of the Grand Canyon. I said, I got to get a place to live. And I had at this point, I had a small amount of money. It was like less than $10,000. And I'm like, I don't know what's next. So I got to be really mindful with this. So I went into this apartment complex, and I introduced myself to the person who ran it. And I said, I can train all of your people here, and all you've got to do is trade for me to have a place to live. And they traded for me. I bartered.
Training
I was like trading their front desk person, their administrative person. I even had the maintenance guy in there. It was
you were lifting the vibration.
I was raising the vibration of this place. And they just gave me this little studio apartment. And I remember I went to Walmart and I bought one of everything. I had one cup and one, because it was like an empty studio apartment, but I didn't know where I was going to stay or what I was going to do. So I bought one cup, one fork, one spoon, one pillow. And then a friend of mine who had left that company that went under, he had gone to work for Tony Robbins. And he called me and he said, you should really call Tony's company because they heard that there was a kid who did a really great job selling for Brian Tracy. And they heard about this kid who did a good job selling for, great job selling for Brian Tracy. And last thing they heard about you were going to the desert, but nobody knows where you were. So I think you should contact them. So I contacted them, and I remember I called them up and I said, hi, this is who I am and this is what happened. And they said, send me a video of you doing a presentation. And I didn't have a video of me doing a presentation. So I was like, oh man, I need a video to take the next step on this job. So I remember I went to a Radio Shack. That's what they had back then. And I bought a video camera. And I went out to the Grand Canyon by myself, and I was putting this video camera on a rock. And then I was going over here and I was pressing play, coming back over here, started this video camera. Oh, I cut my head off. That was not going to work. So come over here. And it took me a whole day, but I shot a video of myself doing a presentation in the Grand Canyon. And then I sent them this presentation that I created all by myself, and I got hired. And then I went out on the road.
And you went to how many cities?
I lived in I worked with Tony from 1995 to 2000.
5 years.
I lived in 16 different cities, about 2 to 3 months at a time. I would fly in and I would meet with companies in the area and deliver presentations to prepare for his upcoming event. And because of everything that I had practiced, learned and practiced up until then, I quickly rose to the top of that particular field and position. I became his #1 corporate trainer. I broke all the records the company had. We didn't have AI back then. We didn't have social media. We had Thomas Guide maps. That's how we found we would take out a big Thomas Guide map. That's how we found our directions. And in the beginning, I got all the meetings nobody wanted. I was like, okay, they called me the kid. And there was a journey to rising within that company. Wow. And that's what happened. And then in 2000, it was just time to, it was time.
You felt it was time.
For sure. It was like the chicken and the egg gets to the point where this has been comfortable, but it's time for.
So what was your next step after that?
Well, what was interesting was I didn't have a clear vision.
But you knew that was over.
I knew that was over.
So you didn't leave with something.
I did not leave with a vision. I left with a knowing that I was complete with this. And it was a scary moment because I was in the unknown.
Right.
And I didn't have another, place to go or position or what that would be. I just knew it was like the caterpillar went into the chrysalis, it died, and something new was going to be born. And I felt it. The word entelechy. I know you know that. This internal sense, this life force that is calling us.
Evolutionary impulse.
Yeah, the evolutionary
pulls
impulse
you to be yourself,
to become even more of who you're meant to become. The blueprint of becoming, right?
Right.
So I sensed that, and I didn't know what the next step was, but I remember being anchored in faith. I remember sensing that it will be revealed unto me, even though I can't see it, even though I don't know what it is with my senses. I had an inner knowing that it was time. And I literally had visions of myself stepping out into the unknown, like on the edge of a cliff, just stepping out into the unknown and being either given firm ground to walk on or wings to fly. And I would have that vision. Right.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
And so you did something with Mercedes, didn't you?
So what's interesting is I signed.
I'm just remembering things about you.
Yeah, this is great because I ended up signing my very first account just a few days after leaving the company. And it was Mercedes-Benz, and it opened up a whole new.
And what did you do for them?
So this was interesting. When I first came in, I mean, they had heard I was the #1 corporate trainer with Tony Robbins, So I came in and they wanted to increase their sales, just like a lot of companies. And they come to me, they want to make more money. They want to increase their sales. They want to increase their bottom line. They want to do a better job. So I came in and I customized an entire training program for them. And I remember when that deal got signed. I don't know if you know who Grant Cardone is, but Grant's proposal was here and my proposal was there because he was doing training, and the leader looked at me and said, well, why should I pick you? And I looked at him and I said, because I love your people. Oh. And he gave me like this.
What does love have to do with it? What's love got to do with it, Tina Turner?
Right? He was like, and he looked at me, it was very odd. And I said, and because I love your people, they will share things with me that they will never share with anybody here. And we will have breakthroughs. And I came in, and even though, they wanted to sell more cars, I noticed that there were departments that were trying to look good and not look bad. It wasn't a unified, aligned organization that was inspired toward a shared vision, a higher purpose, common values. And a lot of this I learned because I was like studying while I was going through all these things. And I said to them, I said, what's lacking here? I said, the sales are a symptom of something deeper. And I said, what's really most essential is having everyone aligned with this vision. And I began with this question to all the leaders: who are we at our absolute best? When we are embodying our absolute best individually, as a team, collectively, as a company, who are we? So it was like this invocation of their highest purpose. And what ended up happening was within 7 months, they became, there was one particular store I worked with, Fletcher Jones Motor Cars. Within 7 months, they became the #1 Mercedes-Benz dealer in the world, in 7 months. And they became the #2 dealership of all dealerships in the entire United States. Wow. Out of all makes and models. Wow. And it started with core values, vision.
It was beyond
mission.
cars. But that's the effect of coming into harmony with your core values and becoming yourself.
Yes.
Yes, it's exactly, what we teach.
Yes.
Become the best version of yourself.
And so it is with individuals.
Yeah.
So there was like this invocation of teams, but also individuals and also the collective. And then people started recognizing. And I remember the leader said, well, what if we do this training and they leave?
Yeah, right. Which can happen.
And I said, what if you don't do it and they stay?
Right. Mediocrity or excellence, which one do you want?
And you want them to leave because that means they're not aligned.
Yeah. But that's what happens when the vibration gets to a certain level. That's in relationships, that's in business. Then it's not neutral. It either draws or drives people away. So it drives those away that aren't in alignment, but it draws to you those that are in alignment with that vibration, that frequency. I remember you working for Mercedes. And so when did you transition into your own thing?
That was my own thing.
That was your own training.
Yeah, that was my own training.
And
they hired me. That was in the year 2000. So it was August 1st, 2000 that I launched Niurka Inc.
That was 25 years ago.
Yeah, 25 years ago. And then do you remember when we first met?
I was getting ready to ask you.
Do you remember?
I remember the energy. When did we first meet?
We first met on a gratitude cruise.
Right, on the cruise.
That we were both scheduled to speak on.
Right.
And I'll never forget that moment because I was like, you were speaking before I was. And I was like, and I went up to you. I said, I'm going to sit in on your presentation. I want you to sit in on mine too.
Right.
And I had a presentation that I had prepared, but you got up there and you were in your flow that you're always in. And I remember you were like flying out of your shoes. And it was so impactful what your message was that I was next to speak. And I got up there and I looked at everybody. I said, do y'all want me to share my presentation or do you want me to break down what the rev here is and turn it into a practice for you, turn it into a strategy?
Yeah.
Because you were like in this flow. I still remember it very vividly. You were in this flow of sharing these empowering questions.
Right.
You know,
Wow.
and
I remember that.
And then I got up there and I taught the power of questions. So I shifted my presentation in real time.
But that is a really great leadership to be able to take the moment.
And to be present.
And respond to the moment rather than to go with whatever you were going to go with. Yeah. You absorbed it and you did a hell of a good job.
I remember. Thank you. It was you inspired me.
Yeah, that's great.
You inspired me, and you've always inspired me so much. So that was a beautiful moment.
I know you're inspiring me right now. Your energy is like, oh yes,
you got.
Let me go start something new.
I'm feeling some enthusiasm to be here. It's like, whew.
Yeah. So you break down one of the part of your teaching. You actually help people come into alignment with their true subconscious tendency. You understand the power of the subconscious mind.
Understanding, and understanding what is, because so much of behavior is subconscious.
Right.
And a lot of times somebody consciously wants something, but they've got something that keeps pulling them back into these old patterns, old habits, old ways of thinking and being.
Right.
So I guide them into states to really uncover, bring that which is subconscious into consciousness.
Right.
And because the subconscious mind, it's the storehouse of memories. It's the domain of emotions.
Habits.
It represses memories with negative emotion until we're ready to deal with it.
Right.
And then when we're ready to deal with it, it presents it for resolution. So there's so many stories of people that come to our transformational courses and they're sitting there and all of a sudden they're in the safe space, right? Because the subconscious mind, one of its prime directives is keeping you safe.
Right.
So they're in a safe space and all of a sudden it goes, oh, I can... And memories start to come up that were, from the imprinting stages of childhood, things that happened. And then they start, this contraction in the psyche starts coming into an expansion, the fullness of awareness.
Right.
The fullness of awareness starts coming in. And in that moment of presence, they can begin to recognize learnings, gifts, new perspectives, new ways of experiencing even the most traumatic moments of their life.
Right.
Like stories, like I can share with you so many stories of...
Just share one that comes to you.
Yeah, I remember one student came in, a very successful person in the eyes of the world, and just kept feeling this strong sense of loss. Like no matter what, he was always in a fear of loss. His wife loved him, but he was afraid he'd lose her. Kids were getting ready to leave home for school. He's afraid he'd lose them. He'd get a business, he was always in this state of loss. And then all of a sudden, we're sitting in this transformational experience, and he has this memory come up. First time he had recognized it. And he's at the zoo with his dad, and he's probably like 4 or 5 years old, and he wants a balloon. And his dad's like, no, you can't have a balloon because if you get it, you'll lose it.
Ah, he imprinted him.
Yeah. And he says, but you can have this little wax statue. He's like, I don't want the wax statue. I want the balloon. I want the balloon. You can't have the balloon. You're going to lose the balloon. So this went back and forth. I want the balloon. You can't have it. Then finally dad says, fine, I get you the balloon. So he's so happy. He's got his balloon and he's walking around and all of a sudden something catches his attention and sure enough, he loses the balloon.
Right.
And in that moment, in a vibration and a frequency of anger, his dad looks at him, screams, points at him. See, if you don't hang on tight to things, you lose them.
Right.
So in that moment, right, the mind of a child, the conscious mind has not yet developed to say, hey, not true, that's your projection.
Right. Don't project that on me. I don't accept that.
Right? The conscious mind hasn't formed to that. So the subconscious mind is amenable to suggestion.
Right.
And it works on the process of deductive reasoning.
Right.
So all of a sudden, the subconscious mind, like a little sponge, starts taking this in. The child realizes it's not safe to feel. Emotions become repressed. Beliefs are formed. And decisions are made.
Right.
Literally in the mind of a child, decisions. I'm going to hold on tight so I don't lose it.
I may lose all my stuff.
Yeah, I may lose it. So then all of a sudden you go 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Now he's in his mid-40s and he doesn't know why. He has this deep sense of needing to hold on or he's going to lose it.
Right.
Full
So
of
in
some
that
of
moment
these-
of this transformational encounter,
Yes.
he's feeling safe.
He's feeling safe.
And you
and the subconscious goes, it's time.
Right.
Right? Because it
Now I can
represses
deal with
negative.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
until you're ready to deal with it. When you're ready to deal with it,
Right.
it presents it for resolution. So one of the keys is creating this safe container, right? A space of pure, authentic, unconditional love. Hey,
Right.
all of you is received.
Right.
The light, the shadow, all of it.
Right,
all of
right.
you is received in love.
Right.
And in that moment, like the nervous system relaxes,
Right.
the whole being just
Right.
like, whew, I'm being received without judgment, without criticism,
Right.
you know,
So that shifted his perspective inward and outward. That changed his life.
completely changed his life. And then there's techniques
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, that support the integration
Right.
at even deeper levels. But I mean, so many stories like
Yeah,
this.
he had the insight. Now he has to integrate the insight and embody it, so that becomes his new law.
And we guide that. So we guide that integration. It's a 4-day
Yeah.
total immersion, like
Right.
immersive.
Right.
That's my favorite work.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
favorite work is the immersive
Right.
work. And obviously I love conversations like this because this is where, and the immersive work over multiple days.
Yes.
Where somebody has time to really process
Right.
in a safe container.
Yes.
This is, I mean,
This is it.
yeah,
It's real work.
It's the deeps. It's the soul work.
It's the soul work.
And
It's
there's
safe.
so many stories like this, you know, like a
You
real
were talking
quick
about
one.
immersive. How
Immersive.
they're immersed into they're steeping in this field of unconditional
Yes.
love, safety, unconscious. There's a relaxation. That which has been hidden is now being revealed to be healed, because now he's in a safe enough space, or she, whoever the person is, to actually look at it and realize they're bigger than that. They can make another
Yes.
choice now.
And then the community is such a key part because
Yeah.
all of a sudden someone will have a breakthrough.
Right.
And they'll come to we have a gong where they
Right.
come to the front of the room and they'll
Right.
hit the gong and,
Right.
and they'll share.
Right.
And they'll share something that they've never shared with anyone before.
Right.
So it's a very raw,
Yeah.
vulnerable, real moment.
Yeah.
And in that moment where that person shares, it touches someone else in the room.
Like a
It,
tuning fork.
Sparks, yeah. And then the entire room starts unfolding in this beautiful realization of these breakthroughs.
Right.
And seeing each other in the eyes of those who are in the room.
Right.
And it's a divine appointment.
Oh, absolutely. One
know?
of the things that I love about you is your understanding. We're in great alignment around this. Your understanding of language, how important language is in terms of the breakthrough, in terms of the integration, in terms of shaping our reality.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because the subconscious is amenable to suggestion.
Right.
So especially like if somebody's not being vigilant in their own thoughts, you're like, we're receiving, you know, all of these suggestions from the news, from the world, from all
Right.
of these things, and they're giving us suggestions, embedded commands, there's
Right.
presuppositions,
Right.
there's embedded assumptions in those conversations that unless you're vigilant and you go, not true, that's false. Falsehood, I declare falsehood.
Right.
Then you can become susceptible to those.
Yeah. I often will use the word suggestion and temptation as the same thing. We're being tempted by a suggestion that the world is giving us about our worth, about
that's a big one,
about opportunities, about possibilities. There's a suggestion that there's a lack and scarcity and not enoughness. That's a temptation that people fall into, and then they use the language to reaffirm that and to reaffirm their experience of that reality, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy based on the original temptation.
Totally.
Yeah.
Years ago, you said something that I've loved, and I've quoted you on a lot of my stages with it. You said, we do not describe what we see. We see what we describe.
Absolutely. That's a law.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that we create as we speak. Our word has that much power. When we speak, we're speaking into existence. And our cells are eavesdropping.
Even if you're joking, you can't like put yourself down.
You know,
or little old me or whatever.
Totally.
Because the universe is listening.
And the subconscious mind does not negate.
It doesn't know how to negate.
It doesn't know how to negate. It just accepts everything, takes everything personal. So if someone says, don't think of a red apple.
Boom.
It's like, what are you thinking about?
Right.
You can't not think about not thinking about something without thinking about it.
Right. It's an impossibility.
So, because we live in this... And we live in this attraction-based universe, right? That whatever is our dominant thought, our frequency, the feelings that we're having. So being very mindful and catching yourself and going, you know what, not true. And then immediately affirming that which is in alignment. Okay.
Yeah.
And even pausing and inhaling a breath, sometimes just being present, not even needing to reaffirm, but just catching yourself. And coming back into the awareness of this moment, because when people are having those thoughts, they're not present. They're in the past. All these things that happen to me, projecting the past into the future. Oh my goodness. And then creating a story and living inside this narrative.
Right. And they create a simulation of reality that's not even real.
Yeah.
But they can experience it, but it's not real.
It becomes a persistent illusion.
Like, that's what Einstein called it.
That's right.
A persistent illusion.
Persistent illusion of, and that's the thing is like, who are we?
Yeah.
Then you got to pause and go, who are we? Are you that trauma? Are you that thing that happened to you? Are you these stories of all the things that are not working? Who are you? Who are you really?
Right.
And that becomes a very powerful inquiry. And I'm sure everyone in your audience has asked that question probably a zillion times, right? And I ask that and to really pause, who are we? We're in this eternal state of becoming.
Yes.
We're
infinite beings.
Yeah,
so
infinite beings.
Always unfolding. I have people ask the 4 W's, who we are, what we are, where we are, and actually 5, where we are and why we are and when we are. So when you get to who, you're emerged from divinity itself. What, you're an expression of the total cosmos, total presence. Where are you? You're at the center, because the center's everywhere. Yeah. When are you? Now.
Forever, here, now.
Why are you? To reflect the entire cosmos according to your uniqueness. And this is what you're bringing to people.
I love this.
You're bringing them, everyone is a unique, because you kept looking at them and telling them that all the things that you've been through to bring this message, all of that's in them.
Yes. There's nobody on the planet like you. With your unique expression, your unique way of bringing light into the world. So it's like recognizing that, honoring that, and
I love
embodying your unique secret. It's not secret, but it's your unique way.
Yeah. So what are you doing these days now? I mean, your whole thing hasn't developed and unfolded.
Yeah.
You encounter and teach and uplift and inspire so many people. So what does your life look like right now in terms of your teaching and inspiring?
Well, right now I'm working to develop leaders and supporting people and embodying their highest purpose,
Right,
which
right.
I've been doing that for many, many years.
course, yeah.
One thing that's accelerating it right now, which is one of our main focuses, is I'm working on Niurka AI.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So it's in the formulation stages of bringing in. I'm not even ready to bring in all the details because I feel like I'm in the AI kindergarten right now.
I've seen some of the things too that people want to bring me into to Beckwith AI and have my whole situation. I'm looking at it.
So I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, like this is definitely the direction the world is going. There's
You can reach a lot of people.
And there's a lot of blessings for it. Like when I used to go in and customize training for companies, what would take me a month to do, I can do in a matter of a day right now. So there's the blessing of it as long as we understand its place.
Yes. Yeah. It's not to run you.
Yeah. And for us to own our sovereignty in the midst of this very fast pace changing world. So I'm really looking at how to learn as much as I can right now.
Yeah.
About AI and how
it's going to be here. So we might as well bring it under some high moral values about it, and some.
I would say that's part of our role with it because it's to really infuse that with that moral sense of higher purpose and
the real reason for it, not just to have power over people or to control or just to get a bunch of stuff, but actually to use it to inspire, heal, uplift, transform lives.
Yeah.
And to bring the best version of each other out. Yeah. So that's your next.
Yeah, and alleviate things that are like tasks that can liberate you.
Yeah.
Liberate you to tune into what is it that I'm feeling called to create?
Yeah.
What is my
Because when you asked the question earlier to the people at Mercedes, you said something along, what is the best version of ourselves?
Who are we?
Who are we?
Who are we
at
our absolute best? When we are embodying our absolute best, who are we?
That question needs to be asked as for humanity.
Yes.
Because humanity's role is not just to slave and work and do tasks. We're here to be creative.
Yes.
We're not here to be consumers. We're here to be creators. And so if we broaden that question out to everyone, AI can help free us from the tedious things we don't need to do that's not creative.
Totally.
And then we're able to, everyone can tap into their gifts, their talents, become soulful artists. It may sound way out there, but it's actually real.
Yes.
When people are free from the tedium of survival, there's so much that we can give and share and shine. We can transform the world so quickly.
With
everybody
velocity.
can have running water. Yeah. Everybody can have all their needs met as a beginning. And then what can humanity can do? What can we heal? What can we transform?
Yes.
Anything. And it breaks down all the barriers of national origin and color of skin and all of that. It's just like we are the emanations of the spirit, that full activated potential. We can literally change the appearance world. And that's your vibration is doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So look at these people out here and just summarize.
Oh my goodness. How are we going to encapsulate all this?
I'll give you a hint.
He gives me the.
I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
First of all, you realize that you're not the trauma you went through.
Yeah.
And your energy compelled you. I mean, you read all those books, you listened to all those CDs, which reframed your subconscious.
Yes.
You asked, how can I be of service with all this information I had? Somebody said, there's a kid. So that was the coincidence and serendipity, spontaneous goodness. There's a kid. She becomes the number one person for Tony Robbins. And then you transform a Mercedes dealership from just selling cars to people coming to a greater understanding of their real nature and being, which the byproduct was selling cars. And then that just birthed your whole way that you walk through the planet. Yeah. So when they look you up, they can find you, and they may be feeling right now, wow, I'm so glad I tuned into this because I need a boost in my life. So anyway, I
love this. I like that. It's beautiful. It's powerful.
But it's true.
And the world, there's somebody that is praying right now for the puzzle piece that you can bring.
Right.
And the puzzle piece that only you can bring in your unique way based on how you've alchemized or transformed your own life experience. It becomes the story, becomes the answer, right? The answer is you, right? It becomes the answer to somebody's prayer.
Yeah, right. That's a really good way to look at it, because you're not really looking for a job. You're actually finding the place where you can give your gift.
Yeah.
You know, or somebody's trying to find you to give you the gift that you're looking for. There's no mistakes in the universe. There's no too many people. You know what I mean? God, the universe made too many people on the planet. No. Everyone has a place.
Yeah.
And everyone has a gift to give. We just have to access it, clear up the subconscious tendencies of lack, limitation, lack worth, lack of self-worth. And the world changes. It becomes a canvas by which we get to paint with the colors of our souls.
I love this.
Of which you have done so wonderfully.
And that's a great question. What is the gift?
Yeah, what is the gift?
Yeah, and how may I serve with my gift?
Right.
You know.
Right. So tell them how they can be in touch
I got a
with you.
gift for you, actually.
Yeah.
So in
share the
addition,
gift and who you are.
So
and what you're gonna...
I have put together an amazing ebook to support you in taking back your mind with everything that we've talked about. So I'm going to give you that, and then I'm going to share with you how you can find me on social media and different places. So the gift that I have, you can go to niurkainc.com, niurkainc.com/Michael.
Yeah,
that's the gift. And you could just put in your stuff and we'll email it to you. And you could also find me on Instagram and Facebook and all the social media channels at NIURKAINC. NIURKAINC. The only one that's different is X. It's Niurka I am over there. Okay. And my website is niurkainc.com. And I'm inspired to support you, to be present with you, to bring everything that I've invested a lifetime to embody within my own self, to support you in tuning into your unique gift and bringing it to the world in the most purposeful and powerful way.
Outstanding.
And I love being here with you and your community always.
This is great. Listen, she's already pre-vetted. I'm not going to have her on here. I know her. I know the work that she's done and the work that she does. So if this resonates with you, check out my friend. And continue to tune in to Take Back Your Mind, and continue to support and come to Agape International Spiritual Center.
Love Agape.
Yeah, and continue to be you. She's spoken at Agape too. She's
Love
spoken
Agape.
At our Revelation
Conference.
Yeah.
Always an inspiration.
So we've been together a long time, and we want you to be a greater version of you. No one else. We don't want any copycats.
Yep.
We want you to be you.
Yes. Fully embodied. Shine your light.
Peace and blessings, everyone. Have a beautiful and bright day. Peace and blessings. I truly hope that you are enjoying Take Back Your Mind podcast. The Take Back Your Mind podcast is sponsored primarily by the Agape International Spiritual Center. In other words, everything that you see in terms of the staff that puts this together, the editing, the equipment, all of this is sponsored by our Agape International Spiritual Center. So if you are enjoying the podcast, I'm inviting you to support the sponsor. Support Agape. Simply go to agapelive.com and make a donation. And say in the donation that you are supporting the podcast. It allows us to keep broadcasting. It allows us to keep putting these magnificent moments together with these wonderful people that I get to interview. We keep having the possibility of updating the equipment that's necessary and providing the wonderful content that many of you are writing in and saying, I really love the podcast. Support the podcast. Support the sponsor. Agape International Spiritual Center. agapelive.com. You can also text to donate. You can text the word give to 424-321-6243 and put podcast so that we know that you're really supporting this wonderful podcast. Our secondary sponsor is Adapta Zen. ADAPTOZEN. This is my superfood greens. It's nutritionally dense because I teach spirit, mind, and body. We want our body temples to be healthy. So one of the products is my superfood greens. You can go to NutraRise.com. Those three little lines you see, you hit those three little lines and you'll see Adaptogen. There's two products, my superfood greens and a product called Elevate, which are organic mushrooms for your health. You can put both in your smoothies so that you have main ingredients for the health of your body temple. These are our sponsors. Primary sponsor, Agape International Spiritual Center. Secondary sponsor, Adaptogen. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be wise. Circulate and share. Peace and blessings. Peace and radical blessings. As you've heard me say over the years, what's most important are the two P's, the presence and your practice. We are aware that this presence is a presence that's never an absence, whether you call it the presence of God, presence of love, beauty, intelligence, or life itself. This presence is omni. It's omnipresent. It's everywhere. It's omniscient. It's all-knowing. It's omnipotent. It is the only power that exists. And there is nothing that exists outside of the infinite presence. And then there's practice. Our practice in this moment is meditation that allows us to be available with an encounter to the presence. The practice allows us to have an encounter with the presence so that the distance between us and the presence, which only exists in illusion and in mind, begins to be diminished, and then we have what is called a realization of our oneness with this presence. That's a game changer. That changes everything. Once you have an inner awareness that you're at one with life, you're never separate from it, then all of those thought forms that would say you're unworthy, all those thought forms that say you don't matter, those thought forms that say you have to shrink yourself in order to fit in, all those thought forms become null and void because you've had an encounter with the presence, which is your very life and being. So we sit to have an expanded awareness of that which is real and eternal, which is the presence. And then the encounter comes from your practice. You're providing the context for grace to happen. So let's enter into this stillness and this silence for just a couple of moments. These 4 S's are very important: stillness, silence, and sacred solitude. Stillness, silence, and sacred solitude. We're going to be very still. Close your outer eyes and allow your body temple to become still. Place your hands on your lap. Facing downward is a sign of anchoring insights and revelations on earth in compelling action, right speech, right thought. Allow yourself to be silent, and that is, assume the posture that you are observing all that's moving. Sensations of the body, thought forms in the mind, emotions that rise and fall, sounds in the room. All of that may be movement, but you are silent and still and silent, watching all of that activity. You can watch the ebb and flow of it, the rise and fall of it, but you are still, just watching. And you're in a field of sacred solitude. You're not comparing yourself to anyone else. You're not thinking about how you're related to anyone else, past, present, or future. You are with yourself in a a fortress of sacred solitude. Alone, but not lonely. Alone from humanity for a moment, but connected to the all-presence. The body breathing becomes a spiritual talisman for reminding yourself that you are right here in the present moment that is yielding to the eternal now. Stillness, silence, you are the onlooker, sacred solitude. Breath is present. And from this silence, the presence that's never an absence, is more and more and more the activity of our awareness. We give ourselves permission to carry this sacred stillness and silence and solitude into the world as right speech, right thought, and right action. This is happening now, and so it is. As you open your eyes, maintain your ever-increasing awareness that you are the onlooker, not caught up in the fray of the world, but you're bringing the peace and the wholeness to the world. Have a beautiful day and a great life. Your time is very valuable, so I want to thank you for lending us your ear and participating in taking back your mind. If you want to submit a question for the question of the week, please submit it to podcast@michaelbeckwith.com. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, please submit a review and let us know your thoughts. Stay on top of current episodes by subscribing to the podcast so that you'll receive alerts and not miss one single episode. And feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends and family. And until we meet again, take back your mind, and you will take back your life. Peace and blessings.